Everyone, Japan finally had a premium tournament, so it's time for us to kind of take a look at it and see what's going on there, because they haven't had a premium tournament for a very, very long, at least an official premium tournament for a very, very long time. So it should be pretty interesting to see what they're cooking, because we're also kind of in a similar situation where History Collection just got released, kind of not sure about, you know, maybe what the best decks are, so at least we can grab some ideas and see what's going on. And there should be some interesting takes, interesting ideas in the premium format at least, because when we talk about Japan's current state of the premium format, less developed, I guess, than what the West is, right? I think, you know, when it came to the previous formats, at least in the last couple of years, the global side, the West side, has really, you know, a lot of focus on premium, all right? Well, definitely more than Japan, and, you know, some of the ideas and the techs have been more developed. But in Japan, you know, we see a bunch of weird stuff sometimes, some interesting stuff. So let's kind of see what ideas we can get from there too, and where they're at. Now, what happened in Osaka? Well, I do want to say there was also a how do you say it? A diversity cut. Those singles as well. So this diversity cut came down to clans, right? Because in premium it's clans. So you're gonna see some decks that are represented more, especially the ones that didn't get, like, especially the popular decks that didn't make it X0. Those decks usually just get, like, destroyed when it comes to Versica. But I'll kind of go into it a bit more, right? So just, like, cutting down on looking at the top 16 breakdown. Gear Chronicle, we had 4 of them, 2 Dark Irregulars, 1 Dimension Police, Nubatama, Kagura. Yeah, then it just kind of goes on from there. And then what happened in the top cut, the winners, we have Nova Grappler coming in first, followed by Anj, and then Nubatama, and then Rising Novas, Mr. Spike Brothers there. So let's kind of look at where the diversity cut landed, because that's pretty important. I did some digging, right, and I was able to grab up the sheet. So this time the diversity cut went on 5. I'm going to kind of explain the impacts of this a bit, and let's look at the top 16. So first off, in the top 16, it was a very diverse top 16. We had Dimension Police, Nubatama, Kagura, Bermuda Triangle, and Spike Brothers all going undefeated. And then after that comes the diversity cut. Now, the interesting thing is that there is no Narukami in the top cut, which means that, you know, technically Narukami can have a good time, but it looks like Narukami isn't even showing up anywhere in the top 16 at all, because we already saw the breakdown, so we know all the spoilers, right? What does really get affected, though, is, for example, Bermuda Triangle, I think, has quite a couple of builds. Because this Bermuda Triangle appeared in the X0 already, it does mean that it gets lower priority when it comes to the X1 section. And then, for example, another popular deck might be Spike Brothers or Nubatama, right? Maybe Spike Brothers less so, but I did hear a lot of hype regarding them when, you know, the History Collection was first released. People were talking about how good it is. So that would have gotten cut too. Nubatama as well. And then, you know, I think Dimension Police, there's like, it's a bit of an iffy one, but, you know, again, those really wouldn't show up, right? What did make it in, and you would have seen the pie graph, was that the 4 Gear Chronicles and the 2 Dark Irregulars. So let's kind of just take a quick look. 4 Gear Chronicles were all in the X1 section, so they kind of just make it in because of the diversity cut. So we have a bit of the diversity cut, you know, rule not really working that great. And then, you know, the 2 Dark Irregulars, right? But apart from that, the rest of the decks in top 16 were pretty unique as well. We had the Pale Moon, Great Nature, and, you know, the Nova Grappler that eventually won, and then Grand Blue, Aquaforce, etc., etc. Now, I do want to point out that 3 of the 5 undefeateds as well went on to continue to dominate and make it into the top 4. It's only the 1 Nova Grappler player that kind of snuck in via diversity cut. Well, he probably would have made it in via top 60 anyway, but, you know, you just kind of confirm it with the diversity cut when you're playing like Nova Grapplers, right? Which is like probably the lesser popular ones. I mean, you see like Gear Chronicle, for example. Yeah. But yeah, the Nova Grappler eventually won, so that's good. But if you look at this, for example, again, I just want to point out another thing about diversity cut. If like 1 Gear Chronicle made it to the X0, that means all these other Gear Chronicles, see you later, mate. They're done. But that's just how it is in Japan. That's how you kind of have to look at the results. You just kind of have to know where the diversity cut is, how it impacts. But at least the decks are still there, so you can still kind of grab ideas. So let's kind of look at from the top 4 first, and then we'll kind of go from there. So first up, we have the Victor, right? So Victor, old Victor, definitely got a huge boost with History Collection. It actually is a good Strider, right? Stride Bearer, Strider, whatever you like to call it. The grade 3 is good. Grade 3 Victor is good. Getting 2 Excel Circles is good too. And then the on-hit as well for Victor is also pretty decent too. And it just also has a good finisher. I guess the main thing that is kind of scary with Victor is just that probably your finisher turns get disrupted by Honolly quite a lot. So if someone just knows your deck and go, okay, you're probably going to pop off next turn, let me set up like 1 or 2 Honollys in the bind zone, and then, you know, your entire end game is like crippled. I think that's the scary part. But nowadays, you have a lot of early game push, I guess, that allows you to like restand early and get a lot of multi-attacks early on. And then, you know, because if you go first and get the Victor double Excel, you open up GB2 as well, you can kind of get even more restands, I guess. Your GB stuff becomes unlocked, so it becomes very, very strong there. In terms of, you know, the crit counts, the new crits are, of course, super popular, but they're still running quite a lot of draw counts too. So in this one, you have the 3 draw nulls, but then you also have like two like D draw, right? Because like it's a 10k draw trigger, right? 10k shield draw trigger. And I guess it just runs. Does it just run 3P? No, it's got a Sanctuary. My bad. I got caught by the Sanctuary. The problem with that is, yeah, it's like old school Victor with a little bit of new school Victor, I'm guessing. Right? So we've got three Mecha Battler Victor, and then you got like one of the old Mecha Battler Victor. Then we got Zubat Victor, because Zubat's still good. And then do we have the yeah? We have two of the old Stride fodder that allows you to kind of swap. So you just swap to the one that you need. Technically, like, V is, like, always going to be decent, because you always get the Excel Circle, you always get, you know, you always confirm to get stuff, but if you go first and you can really pop off, like, you recognize it's time to pop off, you can just kind of go to the old one and go time to get some Excel Circles, right? So, pretty interesting idea there, but overall, Nova Grappler, pretty cool. Next we have is the Bermuda Triangle, and we do see a bit of a change when it comes to how the format is developing, right? So, there before we saw, you know, the Nova Grapple was using the new History Collection Stride update to get the extra Excel Circles. This one's just focusing on the V version of Anj, just going super consistent, being able to just, you know, just do what Bermuda does, right? And that even has Katia. Remember Katia? I remember Katia. And in Japan, they don't have to remember her because they can use them in the deck and just run like basically like a V Anj core that allows you to run Katia to kind of like get everything you need, and then just follow it up with just good, decent strides. No. How do you say it? Any fancy stuff? It's just raw power, just doing what it does best, and consistency is king, right? Especially in Japan, where like, you know, you're X1, and life sucks if you go X1. In these tournaments, so just go hyper consistent, play the best you can, and just have a very solid game plan, and it'll take you to for Bermuda Triangle came second, right? Third place was the new Batama, and we see that, you know, no Kokshigarasu, right? The crow is banned like everywhere. Actually, not banned in English yet. It gets banned this week, so we won't be able to use it. We can use it now, but it's pretty degenerate. But you can also see new Batama is still doing fine without it. Just focus a bit more on the Mizukazes. You have just good cards in general, right? If you spam Mizukase, you have a very solid guard restrict. You have the Forbidol still to get you what you need. And then, you know, you still have good strides. You have Ride, right? You got Morikan. Your on stride is still pretty decent. Getting 2 protects is like a bit like whatever, but it allows you to like stay solid at least for a turn, right? You know you won't be able to die while still putting pressure on your opponent. The new grade 2 PR is just really good. Lets you put on pressure in the early game. Just kind of just cut your opponent's hand down until, you know, the Renee turns where they just kind of lose a lot of hand. They're forced to like keep, you know, quick shields and like and the guardian heals in their hands so they don't die, or if they're playing protect, you know, they have to keep it just for the Renee turn. So it's pretty dirty, very scary deck. But just, you know, overall Still performing well, I guess. 3rd place. And then lastly, we have the Spike Brothers deck. And this is kind of interesting. There was a lot of talk with how, like, you know, the old Rising Nova now has, like, a lot of good multi-attacks, you know, ever since update. But why do that when you can just stay with the solid Rising Nova? In the double Force already, right? A Force 2 and a Force 1. Just run the V1. It's already so good, right? Why do we have to make this less good by running weird gimmicks? Just do what it does now. Do what Spike Brothers does now. Very scary grade 3 turn. Have some new updates, right? Some new, especially the blue OT. And then, yeah, I think it does good. You can't be stopped. You got like you have extra shield as well. So very cool, right? Very cool. So why change what works, right? Why change what works? So at least there we see, like, at least in the top 4, there's a bit of a quite a bit of a difference. You know, you have some of the hybrid ones going in main V version with a bit of a touch of old G Strider. You have like the new Batama, for example. This one's like pure old, and then you know the new kind of V consistency builds that stay relevant. But then kind of moving on, right? We have the Dimension Police that went X0 as well. This is still focusing on the Die Liner because, you know, Die Liner is just too good, right? It's just too insanely good. There's no other way. I guess we should check the Honley build as well, right? How many Honleys are being run? You know, Spikes you wouldn't, new Batama you wouldn't. You can search Honley out, I guess, with you know Orange, so of course you would, and then even the Victor ran the Honley, right? Because if you bind it, doesn't affect you. But yeah, with the Dimension Police, you still run the Honleys as well, which is good. You have your crit lineup technically became better because you have a crit that's kind of a draw, like a 0 crit, and then just running, you know, just kind of old Liner with Command. This is Commander Laurel, like hit, yeah, on hit Commander Laurel, I guess, with a new Commander Laurel as well, right? And then we have the Zeal lineup too. So I guess it still feels like a pretty traditional Dimension Police list when you think of premium Dimensional Police. I think I see pretty much this, right? And then some updates like adding Harmonix Messiah, right? So pretty good to go. A Forbital as well, just a Forbital order just to kind of target your important grade 3s too. I think that's a pretty good take, right? You can get your Taser Age, you can get your one dies, only the one Dinosaurs. Wow, okay, that's interesting. And then moving on, we have the other undefeated Kagura. This was, I think, Natsuki, right? Running a pretty traditional Kagura list right now. This is pretty much the Rebirth Kagura that has been floating around, where you just hit yourself to 5 damage on a Rebirth, and then just kind of multi-attack to the Vanguard. Hopefully trigger like your OT at some point, and then just like win, right? And then, you know, after that, you can ride into just like the cross, or just stay on the Rebirth and still attack 3 times, 3 attacks with Vanguard until your opponent's dead, and then you just sit on a bunch of good defensive cards like a Denial Griffins to kind of just pressure your opponent. Well, just kind of live, right, until your opponent dies. So this one has been floating around for quite a bit, and you know, had some good showings in the beginning of the History Collection format, just because, you know, people think Kagura, what it does, it restands. How scary could it be? Oh, it's actually pretty scary. And it does kind of play differently from your V Kagura the Cross. I think I mentioned it before. That like in V, you just go ham immediately. This one, you kind of just grind out your opponent in a way until like they just can't guard your Vanguards anymore, and you just trigger and just win, right? So pretty cool. And then moving on, we have our first X1. This is just pretty much the Pale Moon list. It's a Lucia list. And I do want to say, I don't think this is the most optimal Lucia list. I did check the person's Twitter, because this is the person who did post up the diversity cut standings, and I think, judging from their Twitter, they're a big Lucia fan. So I'm not surprised they took a Lucia deck rather than maybe something like a Harry deck. Maybe this is just better than Harry, like straight up, but it's kind of like just V Lucia, right? V Lucia with some of the new support, new updates. Is there actually any updates? I guess this is like a new update, you know, extra power line there, and then just kind of that's pretty much it, right? That's pretty much it. I feel like if you want to play Pale Moon, you have Harry, you still have Nightmare Doll as well. Ridedown is less strong in this current format, but they still post like pretty potent like endgames. So I don't know. I feel like this might be a bit of a fan deck, right? And then here we have the Great Nature. So Great Nature got heavy nerfed by losing their Spangled, but thanks to Diversity Cut, they can still make it through. But the reality is like it's actually not that bad because again, you have Forbidol that can kind of search out your good grade 3, so you get your good guard restrict, you get a restander, right? And then you can still kind of do the same thing that you've been doing before. Just put a lot of power on your Rhino and then hope they can't guard it, right? You do have like the option of running like the old Big Belly as well, so you can kind of get the Excel Cyclist quicker if you want, and you do have the options for that because you have really good grade 3 searches. Let's put it that way. You know, hey, Mike Sabaru, what's the haps, right? What's the haps? Oh, you need whatever grade 3 you need. Well, there you go, right? There you go, sir. Yeah, pretty traditional Great Nature still, right? But you're again, why change what works? Here we have the beginning of the Chrono Jets. Now you're gonna see a lot of the Chrono Jets. They look like there's quite a different builds at least, right? So this one we have just kind of the Crest Chrono Jet, full Mazer gears, no ride down like with this. You just go Chrono Jet, hit big numbers, and then you have some of the old stuff that lets you time leap to make multi attacks, which is pretty cool. No Nabu or anything like that. I feel like it'd do pretty well with just high numbers too, and then just maxing. Is it maxed out? No, just you still have 4 draws, and also running the Evergreen Regardless order. That's pretty interesting. Right, that's pretty interesting. Next we have is just this one. This one has been raising quite a lot of interest from Grand Blue and Joy, simply because they see, wow, it's a quintuplets card. I'm gonna throw this out and say I feel like this Great Nature, this Grand Blue list might not be the most optimal one you see. Here you have just a full-on committal to all Nitros that will give you 2 Protect markers. I personally think like Protect markers are kind of weak. They were really good in New Batama because you converted them to Kokshigurasu turns. But here you get 2 Protects that don't really contribute to the endgame unless you go Protect 2. Which I guess, right? I guess. But then, like, yeah, I still think V Nitros is really, really good. You know, simply because it makes 2 big Skull Dragon attacks like that at the end, which I think is quite good, right? But here you have a big committal to a big bad bounty, right? So you go to bad bounty, and then you can ride down to an Itsuki, and the Itsuki, like the only reason why you're playing this Itsuki here is that she has a restanding. She's a restanding Vanguard. Pretty much it. She's a restanding Vanguard. You CB1, you stand this, and she loses 2 drives. I think losing 2 drives is pretty significant. It's just you don't get drive checks, so it's basically just like an extra attack. So I personally don't think it's that good. And there's like not really a way to really buff the power of that like significantly, except maybe through. Not even through Mick, I don't think. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this build of Grand Blue. It's pretty cool when I guess when you see like, oh, cool, it's an Itsuki, right? But I feel like there's just Grand Blue has so many ways to build the deck. I feel like there's definitely something better. I definitely think there's something better out there. We'll probably see it in BCS when people give it a go. It's not even really like a Honolulu, right? No Honolulus as well for kind of a deck that can kind of search it and get it when it needs it. So I don't know. I feel like definitely you can cook better. All right, that's what I'm saying. Another version of Chrono Jet here. This one is much more focused on just time leap, traditional time leap. Got like the Watar, you know, we got the clock. Oh, I'm pretty sure the other guy are in the clock, right? No, you know, so no clock, no TikTok worker. So there wasn't much more for you. You can even see like, you know, old school delayed blazer, right? Wow. Delayed blazer. Even Mellum, no Mellum and the other guy too, right? Yeah. So no Mellum is also way more focused. Even old Chronodran, way more focused on that timely portion of the deck. So pretty cool to see, right? And then the next one we have is just NLK, right? Dark Irregulars. Is there anything other than NLK? I don't think there is. NLK is just like better than a lot of strides. And I think this is probably the most traditional NLK list you'll probably see, right? You know, Barrow with NLK, you know, run some guard restrict, then run all the good stuff that helps you soul charge, the Dimension Creeper, yeah, all the foos, and then you have your new Succubus as well. Yeah, and the new PR, right? So pretty much everything. Chuck in a Enigmatic Assassin, yeah, and then that's pretty much the DI deck. That's pretty much the most standard DI deck you'll see. You're never gonna see anyone run Shaharad, I think, because just NLK is just way better. I think there's like zero discussion, right? And then here we have another flavor of Jet, right? So this is more Ridedown Jet. So, you know, only 2 Rolocks though. But you can see, you know, Ridedown Jet with less TikToks. Reminiscent of the previous format where, you know, it was like fully Steam Maidens, but then they replaced like the Steam Maidens with Jets. With like, or they replaced the Inglisa with Jets to kind of do the same thing. You know, 4 Tirana is a really good card. And yeah, even another build. Three different builds of Chrono Jet so far. But I think there's still more. So this is kind of like the timely version of Chrono Jet again as well. But again, you go 4 Mesa Gear and all that. And yeah, pretty similar to the other one, right? Just timely builds. So 2 timely builds, 1 ride down build, and 1, what was the other one? Another one. And then we have Aquaforce, so Thavis, as expected, still running the 3-1 split, so 3V Aquaforce, and then 1 normal Aquaforce. So you still can play all the games. You can play the Ride Down game, you can play the Ride Up game, you can play the Stride Up game, the Excel 2 game. What is kind of, I guess, like, iffy is, like, you run only 1 old Dennis, or not Dennis, Nikki, because, like, the new Nikki is also really important too. And you also don't have, like, things like, you don't have, like, rocks, so you can't, if you play the Ride Down game, you can't play it for long, because you, like, your opponent just, like, nowadays just strides up, and then, like, you kind of die, right, without the Rollox, so I think that's kind of risky, so at some point, maybe just don't even run it. What I'm not even pointing out is that there's a Revan here, and, I mean, I just realized it. I was just looking at this going, yeah, well, look at this. What? Yeah, there's a Revan here that you can probably replace for anything else. What is the deck name? It's called Savage. So it's not like, he doesn't even have a Revan like fetish or anything like that. You know, my avatar card is Revan. I know people run Genovius in this slot as well, because Genovius you can, you know, get a lot of multi-attacks in, but yeah, that's I guess you ride up and get a drive check, like, I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, chat, tell me what you think, why the Revan is there. Comments below, right? And then last deck of the day, we have another NLK list, right? Why run anything else? This is a more darkness-themed NLK list, though, right? So, you have the NLK, you have the guard restricts, you have the Barrow, you have variants hard leg as well, but then you have run a lot of darkness cards. So, you know, this is old Succubus. Yeah, old Succubus. You also have the Librarian, right? GB1. You don't run Shaharot, so you can't just GB2 immediately when you ride up, and then just all these are working. So it's still like an old darkness build. Yeah, and then we've got like Claw as well, Tragic Claw, even the Jaeger, right? We're Tiger Jaeger. All this old darkness cards. That's living on the edge, man. Living on the edge. But the thing is, it's still the same, right? Just NLK bash, boom, 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 boom. Your opponent's dead with guard restrict. So yeah, that's pretty much all the lists. There's a few lists that are quite interesting, I think. I think the most interesting part is a lot of the 3-1 splits going into the history collection meta. 3V card, 3V version of the card, and then one of the G version of the cards, and then maybe you swap around. I guess the other interesting bit is just like no Narukamis. Like no Narukamis. I think a lot of people are saying Narukami is still pretty good, but there's none of them here. Where are the Mega Colonies? Right? I remember Twitter just talking about how good Mega Colony is. Well, where is that? Where's the Mega Colonies? You know? So, I don't know. Pretty interesting lists. that we've seen, like full top 16, right? Full top 16. There are going to be more tournaments in Japan later, right? Individual tournaments for premium, so we'll keep an eye out for those. But BCS should be soon as well, and then BRO is also soon for standard, so make sure you're registering for that. Anyway, that is it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about the Revan, but also about these premium lists in Japan, and I'll see you all in the next video, right? Bye!